Hello and welcome back to another episode of Diablo to D&D. My name is David, and today we're going to be going over the Let's Build for the Necromancer. So I have been looking forward to this for quite some time because I love the Necromancer. But the moment I got in and sat down to build, I just was uninspired by all of it, and that makes me very sad because Necromancer in Diablo is by far my favorite class. In every game I play Necromancers. It's so much fun. I love raising the dead, but in this case it was just very, very difficult. So I am going to be going over the choices that I've made for each of the subclasses, but I'm going to be doing this in a slightly different manner, or a slightly different manner from the previous videos that I've done. I'm going to be talking about the base class first, and then I'm going to be talking about my choices for each subclass. That way you can switch between the subclass and the main class so you can get the different levels as you're going. So before I begin diving into the class, the rules that I've set forward for this Let's Build series is that I'm always going to be using Variant Human and Standard Array. This is just kind of so I have a baseline for all of the subclasses. I'm not going to be doing multi-classing because I want to get all of these subclasses out to level 20. I'm not going to be including, unless it's very important, the gear from the background, the gear upgrades, spells from leveling, and languages. And in specific for the Necromancer, I'm not going to be going over the curses. Technically they are choices, but you can change them out as you level up, and it's just not... There's a lot of variables that go into what you want for each of the subclasses. So I'm just not going to go over them unless they are very important. All right, let's jump right in. At level 1, you are picking up curses. This is the base feature for the Diablo Necromancer. You are capable of manipulating the flow of magic around people and giving them different curses. You get one curse at level 1 and another curse at level 5, and there are 10 of them. Each of these curses are kind of a miniature spell, and they all have the same base idea. They have a range of 60 feet, they're all in action, and the creature can repeat the saving throw at the end of each of their turns, and it uses your spell save DC. Alright, the first one is Amplified Damage. It's a Constitution saving throw that increases the amount of physical damage that they take. Attract is a very high level curse that makes the creature you target kind of an equal target for your enemies as well. It has the limitation of only one creature being cursed with Attract at a time. Confuse and Decrepify are very similar in that they are wisdom saving throws and give the confusion or slow spell effects, respectively. Dim Vision creates a field of darkness outside of the immediate vicinity of the creature. Iron Maiden is a retaliatory curse. Whenever they deal physical damage, it blows back on them. Life Tap is a fantastic curse if you have a bunch of marshals in your party. It's a Constitution saving throw, and anytime it takes physical damage, the attacking creature regains hit points. Lower Resist is a very, very, very powerful, but it's also a 17th level curse, and it gives vulnerability to cold, fire, lightning, and poison. It's probably too strong. Balancing-wise, it should probably be like you pick one and then it gets that, but Lower Resist in Diablo does all of them, so... For Terror, it is just fear. It's makes a creature frightened of you. And then Weaken reduces the incoming damage. Physical damage is reduced by your proficiency bonus to a minimum of 1. So that's pretty much it. This is a very nice section to have in your back pocket, especially as you get to higher levels. It's very nice in the early levels because you don't have a lot of spell slots, and if you have tank characters or damage dealing characters, you can drop an amplified damage on your target, and it acts as kind of this damage amplifier, or if you need to swap out to weaken, then you kind of mitigate that incoming damage. It's very, very handy. And then, of course, at higher levels, you can pick up, dim vision, decrepify or confuse. Just it's very handy and it's very useful as you level up throughout your entire journey. All right, the second part at level 1 is getting spell casting. This is pulled basically directly from the wizard, with the modification of you don't have a spell book. Instead, you are just kind of the basic generic spellcaster stuff. You're using this with the wizard spell list from D&D for your necromancer spells, but that's only because I haven't sat down to make an actual spell casting or a spell list for the necromancer. Interestingly enough, I thought about what is it called? Raise Dead or Animate Dead for the necromancer, and I probably won't be putting that on the spell list because that is specifically the summoner necromancer, as we'll get into later. I don't know, but that is a future me problem. Some notes, you are actually a ritual caster as well, so you can do the ritual spells from wizards. All right, at level 2, we're going to pick up Bone Armor. This is giving you false life. You can cast it at a level equal to your highest level spell slot, and its material component becomes a bone. Very thematic. You can cast it a couple times per long rest without expending a spell slot, but you can also cast it with your spell slots. So this is just a way for you to get a little bit of tankiness as you play. You are a d6 hit die. Your necromancer is just squish, but as you'll get to 3rd level, you pick up a golem and suddenly you're a lot more tanky. At level 3, you get your subclass. You can choose Bone, Poison, or Summoner. In this document, there's also the Curse Weaver and the Golemancer. Those are not official playtest content, so I'm not going to be going over them here. Though with the next version, the 2024 version, there's going to be some changes that will allow me to make them into actual playtest or playable subclasses. Also at 3rd level, you're picking up your first golem. You get the clay golem. You can spend a bonus action to command it if it's within 60 feet of you. It's just, for the clay golem, it's just a little bit of extra damage, but it is a massive tank. I'm not going to be reading over the stat block, but the important things are to know that you can only have one of them at a time, and the clay golem has the ability Earthen Grasp anytime it is struck by an attack or it hits a creature with its slam attack, then it slows a creature. Slow is, Constitution saving throw, and then it slows if it fails. Slow is a new condition specifically for this playtest. It grants disadvantage on weapon attacks and dexterity saving throws, and also reduces its speed by, I think, half. So very, very handy. The clay golem in Diablo does not deal a lot of damage. It's intended to be something that monsters beat up on, and it's a damage reduction sort of thing. So it only deals 3 bludgeoning damage, 1 plus its strength modifier. At level 4, we're picking up an ability score increase or a feat. We will repeat this at 8th, 12th, 16th, and 19th levels. Basically the same stuff as normal. 7th level, you get the Blood Golem option. It's the same as your, using the same rules as your Clay Golem, only this time it has a little bit more damage and blood healing instead. This way, anytime it deals damage to a creature that is not a construct or undead, you and it both regain hit points equal to half the damage rounded down. This was changed before I made the video. This was originally, it heals itself, and then if it has maximum hit points, anything else goes to you. That's the way that it works in Diablo. I am just changing it for simplicity here. You both regain a couple of hit points. Now, granted, because its damage is 1d6 plus 3, it's only going to be healing between 2 and 4 hit points. So it's not like all that powerful. I mean, dropping amplified damage will certainly help, but it's not it's not as tanky per se as the clay golem, for example. It's kind of that nice mix of a little bit of tank because it has a high con and a little bit of damage dealing. Speaking of which, at level 11, you get the Iron Golem. The Iron Golem is very unique. You have to create it around an item that is predominantly metal. This could be a ring, this could be a necklace, this could be a weapon, a shield, whatever. You just have to have some piece of metal. It could be just a lump of iron that you found on the ground. Literally just find a geode, drop it down, or not a geode, excuse me. It's not slag iron. I can't remember what the thing is called. Surface iron, whatever. And you just drop it on the ground and you can create the golem out of that. Then when the golem dies, you roll a d20, and if the result is less than or equal to your Necromancer level, the item drops to the ground and can be reused. Otherwise, it's destroyed. This is not exactly how it works in Diablo. In Diablo, it's just the item is completely destroyed. But in To Hell and Back, it allows you to just pick up the item whenever the golem is gone. So I think this is a nice medium. So that means that at level 11, you have a 55% chance to get your item back, and then it goes up to a 100% chance at level 20. This is actually very nice because the golem gets the abilities of the item. It is proficient with the item and it ignores all race, class, and level requirements to attuning to. The golem automatically attunes to the item when it's constructed around it. So in its metallic construction ability, when the golem is summoned, then it gains the characteristics of that item. For example, it would have +2 AC if it was a shield or a 10-foot reach, and deal 1d10 plus its strength modifier slashing damage if it was a halberd. This means if you drop it onto what's the Sunbrand? Something cleanser, I can't remember. Firebrand, whatever. Then it gets a ton of damage. You have a +1 longsword, then it gets the +1 damage, that kind of thing. Very modular, very handy. And yeah, I mean, you can command the golem if you get a hypothetical sword of fireballs, or like a metallic version of the necklace of fireballs, and you summon the golem around that. You can command it to expend charges and cast fireball. Yeah, it can use the item's abilities. Now, granted, its spellcasting modifiers are not good because its intelligence is 4, wisdom 12, and charisma is 8, but you can if you want to. In addition to that, it also has thorns. Anytime it's hit by a weapon attack, the attacker takes piercing damage equal to half your proficiency bonus, rounded up. The Iron Golem is very, very spiky. So, yeah, don't get in close. But I mean, it also works against bows and whatnot. Anyway, let's move on. The Fire Golem is what you'll pick up at level 15. This is just a damage-dealing monstrosity. It has a little fewer hit points, but it is all about damage. It has Fiery Presence that deals 1d6 fire damage in an area. It has Death Burst. Whenever it dies, everybody around it makes a dexterity saving throw and deals 2d6 fire damage. And it also has Fire Absorption. If the summoned Fire Golem would take fire damage, it instead regains hit points equal to half the damage, rounded down. Fiery Presence and Death Burst are directly pulled from Diablo. Fire Absorption is also kind of pulled from Diablo. I think there's like some percentage based as you put points into it. But the wording is pulled from the Clay Golem, where it has Acid Absorption. So basically the same thing. Now, keep in mind, it's also immune to fire. So if you really wanted to, instead of spending a minute casting Mending... it doesn't have Mending, the ability to be mended. So yeah, if you have some fire spell, a fire cantrip, firebolt or something, your sorceress can just hit it a couple times and regenerate some hit points. But uniquely, this one does 3d6 fire damage for its slam attack rather than dealing physical damage. At 18th level, we pick up Master of Undeath. You get benefits befitting a Necromancer. You gain dark vision out to 120 feet, immunity to necrotic damage, and you have advantage on death saving throws. And while you have 0 hit points, you do not fall unconscious, but you continue to make death saving throws unless you are stable and suffer the normal effects of taking damage at 0 hit points. If you cast any spell other than a cantrip while at 0 hit points, you fail 1 death saving throw and continue to make death saving throws as normal. The way that this is set up is the Necromancer originally had Curse Golem subclass ASI, and then the last couple of levels got a little wonky because your subclass, or you don't have a subclass ability, and your ASI is at 19. So, I mean, looking back, I might switch the 18th and 20th levels, now that I think about that. But anyway, yeah, this is just something that I thought about putting in for the Necromancer. I just thought, okay, what do you want to have as a Necromancer? What feels appropriate? And being able to continue past your quote-unquote death just felt right. All right, 20th level, you have Golem Mastery. Your Necromancer Golems gain the following benefits. Its maximum hit points are doubled, its speed is increased by 20 feet, and its attacks are considered magical for the purposes of overcoming resistance and immunity to non-magical attacks and damage. And it has extra attack, so it can attack twice rather than once when taking the attack action on its turn. And it adds your intelligence modifier to its damage rolls unless that modifier is negative. So this is the kind of theme that I've strung out through the Necromancer class, is that you have golems. Normally you'd think, oh, Necromancer, undead, raising the dead, but that's a specific subclass, whereas every Necromancer in Diablo 2 has a golem. Largely the clay golem, but I figured I might as well, I'm not doing exactly Diablo 2. Now, it's kind of strange to get its attacks are considered magical for the purposes of overcoming resistance and immunity, because a lot of that happens at like level 5 or level 6 for the other classes. For like the monk, and I think one of the subclasses of the barbarian, I think the beast barbarian, I think their subclass says, hey, your unarmed strikes with your changed form are considered magical, I think. But I mean, better late than never is what I'm going for here. All right, let's jump into the first subclass. This is the Bone Necromancer. Now, the Bone Necromancer is pretty interesting. They are very much a caster-style subclass where they want to have more spells, they want to have range and distance because they're a spellcaster. All right, let's jump in with the stats. First off, we have a 10 in strength, we have 14 dexterity, a 13 constitution, 15 intelligence, 12 wisdom, and an 8 charisma. For our variant human points, we are putting them into constitution and intelligence to round them up to 14 and 16. We're picking up investigation, and this is for a reason, and that I will get into. Eldritch Adept for our feat, picking up intelligence as our spellcasting ability, and Eldritch Sight, which gives us the ability to cast Detect Magic at will. Now, these two seem interesting, Eldritch Adept especially, because there's not a lot of warlock abilities, quote-unquote, in Diablo. However, necromancers are a very interesting thing because they were taught way back when, in ye olden days, I mean like thousands of years ago, I think 1,500, 1,000, 2,000 years ago, they were taught necromancy by the dragon Trangul. Trangul is the dragon that encircles the world. It is the teacher of necromancy. This is where Rathma, the son of Lilith and Inarius, got his necromancy powers. This is where the Bones of Rathma set comes from. This is why the necromancers are called the priests of Rathma, because they are following in the footsteps of the first necromancer, the first human or first mortal on Sanctuary. Trangul is Rothma's teacher. So this is where the claws of Trangul comes from, those kinds of things. So our background explains everything. The history behind this is that this person was an archaeologist, which is our background, which gives us history and survival, cartographer's tools, and a medallion. They start with some kind of trinket or object from their archaeologist days. So my story is that they were digging in some crypt or somewhere, and they discovered this medallion. This medallion allowed them, had some kind of magical connection, something, to Trangul, and allowed them to contact him and kind of be taught, or at least directed to the priests of Rothma, the necromancers. And that's when this person gave up their life as an archaeologist and picked up their life as a necromancer. So they got investigation because they were an archaeologist, putting things together, finding stuff as they're digging. And then the Eldritch Adept section is because that was their kind of deal with Rothma, or not Rothma, with Trangul, is here's an otherworldly entity making a connection to them, and they got Eldritch Sight, or Detect Magic, because that was what they wanted to do. They wanted to find magical artifacts. The class came together or the subclass came together very quickly after I came up with that story. It was a whole lot easier. But because of their background, because of their desire to be kind of a magical archaeologist, they're picking up Arcana. Because they are a necromancer, they are picking up religion. So for our gear, it's very, very light. We're picking up a quarterstaff, an arcane focus, and a scholar's pack. They don't have proficiency with a lot of weapons. They only get either a quarterstaff or a dagger. I think it's the same thing with the wizard. Wizard gets a spell book, but pretty much the same thing. And they don't get armor proficiency, so they don't have any armor kind of at all. But because they do have mage armor from their spell list, they're not without defense. All right, at 3rd level, we're picking up Teeth. Teeth is a cantrip, doesn't count against the number of cantrips you know. When you cast it, its damage die becomes a d6, and creatures that succeed the saving throw take half damage rounded up. That last part is a change. It's a slight change. Didn't exist before, now it's here. Whoop-de-doo. Now, Teeth itself is a very fun cantrip, because it doesn't do a lot of damage, and it has a very, very small area. It is a line 5 feet wide and 10 feet long, dexterity saving throw, and each creature that fails takes 1d4 piercing damage. Now, normally, cantrips get stronger over time. They deal more damage. Teeth is different. In Diablo 2, when you put your first point into Teeth, you send out 2 teeth, 2 little projectiles. However, as you put more points into it, they start to add more and more projectiles. I think it's 1 per level, or 1 plus 1 per level, up to a maximum of 21, I think. I'm not entirely sure. But that means that you can eventually cover the entire screen, just shotgun everything out, and you have this massive arc. So at higher levels, the spell's area changes when you reach 5th level into a 15-foot cone, 11th level, a 30-foot cone, and 17th level, a 60-foot cone. So you're only dealing 1d4 damage, but you are absolutely covering the area with just teeth. Now, it's still not good, and you'd be hitting your allies because yada, 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 yada. But, I don't know. I think it's fun. But for the Necromancer, the Bone Necromancer, that damage die becomes a d6, gives you a little bit more damage because you are putting more points into it, and you're spending a lot of points into upping its damage and making it harder for the creatures to dodge, so creatures that succeed the saving throw take half damage. For our ability score increase at level 4, we are picking up Intelligence. Get that up to 18. This is where I usually want to have your main stat start before branching out into other things. At level 6, we're picking up Bone Spear. Now, this was an ability, and I turned it into a spell. When you reach 6th level, you pick up Bone Spear as a spell. It doesn't count against the number of spells you know. You can cast it twice per short or long rest, and you can also cast it using spell slots of the appropriate level. Bone Spear originally did, I think, 3d6 in a line. Yeah, I think it was an ability that dealt 3d6 in a line with a dexterity saving throw. However, the spell is a little different. It underwent a whole host of changes as I tried to get it to work. Because if I just made it a 100-foot line and 8d6 damage, well, that's just lightning bolt. It's literally just piercing version of lightning bolt. It's same abilities, same dexterity saving throw, except that this is a projectile, not a line attack. Or line, you know what I mean. So if it misses, it doesn't deal half damage. It just doesn't deal damage. So that means that it's not just lightning bolt, it's a bad version of lightning bolt. So I had to make it feel a little different. So instead, what I said is each creature of your choice in a line 5 feet wide and 100 feet long emanating from you makes dexterity saving throw. On a fail, a creature takes 4d8 piercing damage. So its damage is on average, I think, 18, whereas lightning bolt is an average of 28. But this does mean that you can choose who you're aiming at. The kind of flavor, I guess, is that you're firing it off, but you have some measure of control as you weave it through the combat. And then as you cast it at higher levels, it deals 1d8 additional damage. So this one was pretty difficult to work with because I had all kinds of things going on in my mind. I had you choose any number of creatures and then you make an attack roll against it, but then that got weird with Spell Sniper because Spell Sniper, and yeah, I just ended up making it the way that it is. And now you have the ability to cast it twice per short or long rest. That is your benefit. Anytime you get a spell in this playtest, you have some way to enhance it, some way to make it better. And in some cases, you can choose to avoid making some creatures make the saving throw, or it increases the damage, like with Teeth. In this case, I said you get it twice per short or long rest. Given that it's a 4d8 as a 3rd level spell, it's pretty good, but it's also like you could be casting Lightning Bolt or Fireball. So I figured, let's just give it to you, short or long rest. All right, at level 8, we are continuing down this boring path and bumping our intelligence up to 20. You are a spellcaster. You are very much this person who relies a lot on their spells. So having that intelligence bumped up is very, very nice. Now, speaking of being a spellcaster, you have Constitution saving throws as a part of your base class. You get Constitution and Intelligence. So you don't need Resilient Constitution. You don't need as much Warcaster because you already have that built-in proficiency with Constitution saving throws. So that's why we're picking up Eldritch Adept at level 1 instead of Resilient Constitution or Warcaster. Level 10, you get the spell Bone Wall. It doesn't count against the number of spells you know. When you cast it, double the number of hit points of each structure, and each structure's AC becomes equal to your spell save DC. That last section with the AC change is a change that I made just before making this video. So Bone Wall in Diablo is, Bone Wall in this playtest is 2 abilities mushed together. There's Bone Wall and then there's Bone Prison. Functionally, they are the exact same. They are just either a line of bone structures or a ring of bone structures. You know, see, Arm of King Leoric, if you want to know what Bone Prison looks like. It's just a way to drop some barriers on the battlefield so that people, you can push creatures out, you can isolate them, just keep them away from you, sort of thing. All right, Bone Wall as a spell is a 3rd level spell. Casting time 1 action, range of 90 feet. Components are verbal somatic material, which is a shard of bone. Concentration 10 minutes. Evocation Attack, save, none. Control, yada yada. Available to the Necromancer. A series of 10 bone structures explode from the ground. Each structure is 10 feet tall, 5 feet wide, 5 feet long, and must be contiguous with another structure. If a structure is created in a creature's space, it pushes it to the nearest available open space. Each structure is an object and can thus be breached. Each structure has 12 AC, which does change to your spell save DC, and 15 hit points, which does get doubled in this case. Each structure lasts until it is reduced to 0 hit points or the spell ends, and then when you cast a spell using a 4th level spell slot or higher, you create 2 additional structures for each spell level above 3rd. Now, this is interesting. It's interesting because it does say that that the structures need to be contiguous with one another. So that means if you want to have a bridge, if you need to make a bridge, you can just make a bridge. Things like wall of stone, I think, it creates a physical structure that you can walk on. Same thing with bone wall. You have a 20-foot span of 20-foot gap that you need to get across. Okay, cool. Bone wall, you spend four of the structures to create a 10-foot wide path that is 20 feet wide or 20 feet long, because you're stacking them kind of on top of each other and then across the gap. And then you have ones that are able to push against the sides of the bridge or sides of the gap so that you can actually walk on it, yada, yada, yada. It's just very, very handy. Now, to note with this ability, you don't have free casts of Bone Wall. You do have to spend actual spell slots. This was a change that I made partially because Bone Spear is pretty darn good, and also because Bone Wall is, it's useful, but I don't feel the need to give you a ton of spells for free. In this case is what I mean. It's not really a staple of your arsenal like Bone Spear is. It's just kind of nice to have. All right, for level 12, we're going to pick up Dexterity bonus. That pushes our Dexterity out to 16. Because we don't have armor, we do need to have a higher Dexterity so that our AC is higher. Our Constitution, I'm not too worried about. You have a Golem, you have other party members. So the Dexterity is more to get a little bit of AC as well as push up your saving throws, that kind of thing. Speaking of saving throws, Constitution, already proficient with Constitution. Don't need to bump that up as much because you are proficient. Okay, at level 14, we got our last subclass ability, Bone Spirit. At 14th level, you're capable of summoning a malevolent spirit to track down your foes. As an action, choose a creature you have seen within the last minute. If it is within 100 feet of you and is not behind full cover, or if it is behind full cover with a gap of at least 1 inch wide, it makes a Dexterity saving throw against your spell save DC. On a fail, it takes 5d6 force damage, and you can use this ability twice per long rest. Bone Spirit in Diablo is not good. It's useful, but it's like very expensive to cast. It's single target, I don't know. It's usually when you're building a Bone Necromancer in Diablo, it's a Bone Spear Necromancer, which is again one of the reasons why you have twice per short or long rest. But in this case, I did not make it a spell. Although I very well could have, but I did not make it a spell because it's not going to be used by anybody other than Bone Necromancers, and because it didn't really need to be a spell. I don't have any other justifications besides that, but it didn't really need to be a spell. For 16 and 19th, we're going to be bumping that Dexterity up to 20. Again, see comments from level 12. And that is the Bone Necromancer. It's a Bone Necromancer. It's fairly bland in terms of, like, you're not getting a ton of feats and whatnot, nothing special, but I don't think it really needs it. You can pick up Warcaster to get that advantage on your Constitution saving throws. You could pick up, any number of things, but there's nothing that really jumped out to me and said, aha, you need this. You're not focusing on an elemental type, so elemental adept is not going to be good. The Poison Necromancer is a completely different one, so you're not going to be picking up the Poisoner feat. You could pick up things like, I would have picked up something like, some feat that would have given me, what is it called? Find Familiar? except that Find Familiar is a wizard spell and I have access to it anyway. So, meh. But yeah, there's nothing that really inspired me in this case. So I just decided, let's play it vanilla and go with role-playing. I really like the background that I chose for this. This history for this character of being an archaeologist and then happening upon this medallion, making a deal with Trengul, and becoming a bone necromancer. Also, you're an archaeologist. You're going to be digging up bones. So that's all fun and games, and that's what I came up with. All right, let's move on to the Poison Necromancer. The Poison Necromancer is going to be a little bit different. This is focusing on poisons and the humors of the body. To me, this is a little more intimidating a subclass. Because like Bone Necromancer, oh, you're flinging bones at me. Sure, woo. Bones I could parry or dodge or whatever. Poison, you never know where the poison's going to be coming from. It could be on a dagger, it could be in your drink, it could be in your food, it could be in the air, it could be anything. So, freaky thing. But let's jump into the subclass. We are starting off with an 8 in strength, 14 dexterity, 13 constitution, 15 intelligence, 12 wisdom, 10 charisma. For our race points, we are putting them into constitution and intelligence as usual. We are picking up insight and fighting initiate archery for our feat. Now, this is very interesting, and it's going to require a little bit more explanation. Fighting initiate is very unusual. You're a necromancer. This is like taking Tavern Brawler at level 1, which I have done for my wizard. See previous video if you want to hear that story. But the Poison Necromancer has an ability to poison weapons, so picking up archery's fighting style allows you to be a little bit more accurate with your ranged attacks. For the background, we are going to be picking up Pirate. We're picking up Athletics, Perception, Navigator's Tools, and Vehicles Water. So the story behind this one is that they're not a pirate before they joined the Necromancer, the Priest of Rathma. It was actually the other way around. They joined the Necromancers and then decided to wander the world, and they got caught up in or joined a pirate crew, not because they wanted the love of plunder and jewels and whatnot, but because they were sailing around and this just kind of seemed like the adventure that they wanted. Necromancers in Diablo are the definition of true neutral. They dabble in what people would typically consider to be evil things, but they do it for the benefit of good. They protect the balance. So being a pirate in this character's eyes is not a matter of like right or wrong. It's just a matter of living life, of survival. And this is just how they chose to do it. All right, for our skills, we're picking up history and medicine. You're going to be dealing with poison. Having poison as a study point means that you learn the body, hence medicine. History is, just a passion. For our gear, we're going to get a dagger. It is a finesse weapon, allowing you to attack with your dexterity, hence why we have it instead of a quarterstaff, an arcane focus, and an explorer's pack. At level 3, we're going to get 2 abilities. The first is Poison Adept. You learn to manipulate the poisons of the world. You gain proficiency with the poisoner's kit, resistance to poison damage, and advantage on saving throws against being poisoned and ending the condition. You can also apply poisons to weapons and ammunition as a bonus action rather than an action. So you are very handy at manipulating deadly things. It does actually help because the Poisoner Adept or Poisoner feat is garbage. Now, you don't get the ignores resistance to poison, but also there's like no creatures that are resistant to poison. I think the Dungeon Dudes talked about this in one of their videos. It's like badgers and assassins. So unless you're fighting badger assassins, it's not going to be good. So picking up the only ability that's actually worth getting, being able to apply poisons as a bonus action, having that built right in, just makes it a whole lot easier. All right, the second one is Rapid Concoction. This is what Poison Dagger was. You're a necromancer. You are the definition of squish. And so having, running around with a dagger and stabbing people is not good. It's just not good because you have no way of tanking the damage that's coming in, or very little way of tanking the damage that's coming in or getting out of there as you need to. So instead, you can, as a bonus action, take 1d4 necrotic damage and create a poison from your blood, coating either a weapon or up to 10 pieces of ammunition you are wielding in it. So this way you can poison some arrows if you really need to. See previous feat that we got, the Fighting Initiate Archery. You have proficiency with light crossbows. So this is where you would need to pick up a light crossbow, or if you really wanted to, a sling, because the sling bullets are ammunition. It's bludgeoning damage, but technically it is ammunition. So you can coat up to 10 pieces of this ammunition you're wielding with it. The poison lasts for 1 minute until the weapon or ammunition is coated in another poison, or you use this ability again. Basic, standard stuff. A creature hit by this weapon or ammunition makes a Constitution saving throw against your spell save DC. On a fail, it becomes poisoned until the poison ends. While poisoned this way, it takes 2d4 poison damage at the start of each of its turns, and it can repeat the saving throw at the end of each of its turns, ending the effect on itself on a success. This is a fun party play ability. So if you have, for example, a barbarian or a fighter or a even a ranger or something like that, and you want to be casting spells, you can say, hey, give me your bow, or give me your quiver, or give me your sword or something. And then you can cut your palm, coat it in this poisonous blood, hand it back off, and then start chucking spells from the back line as your guy runs in, or your ranger is shooting. In this case, this is kind of self-contained. This is somebody that has, maybe they were the archer, the crow's nest person. They have proficiency in perception, so maybe they were on the crow's nest and wielded a bow. And anytime they attacked a ship, they just poked their palm and then grabbed the bow or crossbow and just chunk, 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 chunk every turn. Poisoning people is also very nice because that is damage reduction. It does grant disadvantage on weapon attacks. So you're dealing a little bit extra damage that doesn't need concentration. You can spread it around the battlefield, and it's just good to have. Now, granted, Poison Dagger doesn't require you to, deal damage to yourself, but I figured, the poison's got to come from somewhere, and so that one might change, but I like the idea of a necromancer who's literally built up an immunity to iocane powder. I mean, literally made themselves very poisonous. Okay, at level 4, we're going to get intelligence, bumping up your attack rolls with your intelligence, your spell save DC, your poison spell save, or poison save, and so on and so forth. You'll all know by this time what that's for. At level 6, we are getting Poison Explosion. Upon reaching 6th level, you learn the spell Stinking Cloud. It counts as a necromancer spell for you, doesn't count against the number of spells you know. Now, this is a part that I did change before the video. Originally, it also granted at later levels Cloud Kill. However, Cloud Kill is very powerful, so I decided to throw something in that makes it less powerful, but also you get to use it for longer. When you cast Stinking Cloud using this ability, whenever a creature fails the saving throw, you may have it take damage equal to your Rapid Concoction ability, which is at this time 2d4 poison damage, or half as much on a success instead of spending its action retching and reeling. So this idea is that either it's action denial, that you drop a cloud of poison and you keep people from attacking inside it, or you can just deal damage, and it becomes this kind of miniature cloud kill. You can also cast it twice per long rest without expending a spell slot, and then you can cast it using a spell slot of the appropriate level. Poison Explosion in Diablo is you target a corpse and it blows up. I wanted to separate that from the corpse requirement because it didn't really kind of need to, and Cloud Kill and Stinking Cloud were already there, and you can make it its own ability, but then it got... So just the way that I have it here is, I think, good enough. And not having a corpse, not needing a corpse, means that you can put it anywhere you want to. You get to use your ability anywhere you'd like. You can clog up a hallway as you're running away, or, pop open a door, stinking cloud, close the door, and bar it as people try to get out. It's a very dangerous, very, very dangerous thing, and I love it. But yeah, this is a little bit of crowd control. This is a little bit of damage if you really need to. And it is fairly modular. So take it as you will. Okay, at level 8, we are deviating a little bit and bumping up our dexterity. Now, the dexterity allows us to get a little bit more damage off with our light crossbow or sling, as you may have. It increases our AC. It's just nice to have. You're going to be attacking from the back, so your AC isn't going to be needed as much, but it's still very nice to have as your enemies get stronger and stronger, their AC start to go up. So that way you need to hit in order for the creature to make the saving throw for the damage. So bumping up that dexterity is actually pretty good. Okay, at 10th level, we get Poison Master. When you reach 10th level, your expertise with poisons has reached its peak. You get expertise with Poison's Kit, and the time and gold needed to create poisons with it are halved. If you spend the normal amount of time and gold to create a poison with a Poisoner's Kit, you can change how it is applied. And in addition, poisons you apply with two weapons and ammunition last 1 minute rather than a single hit. And then you gain immunity to poison and the poison condition, and the poisons you create with rapid concoction become 4d4 rather than 2d4. So this is why that poison explosion was worded a little weirdly, because rapid concoction gets more powerful. So I have wanted to play a poisoner character for a long time, but poisons in in D&D are very, very difficult to handle, very difficult to work with, because you have to talk to your DM. You have to sit there and work it out. And okay, well, you need supplies. You need to go to the apothecary, and here's how much the abilities cost, or the supplies cost, and all kinds of things. And for some people, that is nice. It's kind of this world building thing. But I also just like the ability to say, okay, here's what I have. I don't need to talk to other people, and I don't want to work with... Poisons are just complex. Okay, that's basically it. And I thought, when I made this ability, I thought, okay, what can I do to make it a little bit more interesting? And I thought about cutting the time and gold needed to create poisons and changing how they're applied. Some require inhalation, some require an injury, some require ingestion, and some require, I think, topical, like you can smear it on skin or something. So I thought, well, let's make it so that you can change how they're applied if you spend some time, tweaking it, modifying it. And that way, if you really want to have a purple worm poison, I can't remember what the poison's called. I think it is an injury-based thing, and it's like 8d8 damage. You can turn it into a bomb instead and throw it, and the people in the area inhale it and take some damage. Okay, after the Poison Master, we're going to get to level 12 and pick up another 2 intelligence bonuses. See previous comments. This is pretty standard. Don't want to pick up the Poisoner feat because it's bad. Okay, at 14th level, you get Poison Nova. This is 4d8 poison damage around you in a ring up to 30 feet once per long rest. The Poison Necromancer in Diablo 2 is very much based around Poison Nova. It is a massive area of effect. It is pretty easy to cast. You're just killing screens with it instead of using Poison Dagger or Poison Explosion. Poison Dagger Necromancers exist, but they're not that good. Poison Explosion Necromancers just simply don't exist, especially when Corpse Explosion is literally right next to it. But giving people Poison Nova as many times as they'd like is just not a good idea. So I gave it a once per turn hit everything that's not behind full cover. Or not once per turn, once per long rest. And then 16th and 19th, we're picking up dexterity so that we can get more of that AC and more likely to hit with your light crossbow. Now, by this time, you probably are spending more time on spells, but also it's just handy to have. I mean, 44 poison damage at the beginning of each turn with, I think, a 19 spell save DC. It's actually pretty darn good. But yeah, you want to be able to hit and spread that damage around the battlefield. And that's the Poison Necromancer. This is not terrible, I think. It's unusual, certainly unusual, picking up Fighting Initiate Archery, actually wielding a weapon, actually fighting with your weapon is definitely a unusual choice. But it does allow you to kind of push into like utility spells rather than damaging spells. So kind of acting more as a somewhat damage mitigation, battlefield control sort of thing. Support, essentially. You're going to be doing support. Now, as I was building this, I'm like, oh, wait a second. You can choose like ammunition. So if you had a sprite familiar, the sprite familiar, or the sprite could put people to sleep. And then I started like going down this rabbit hole of, okay, so if you can get the sprite onto the Necromancer, oh, but dang it, you have to be a warlock. So if you ended up picking up the Pact of the Chain warlock, getting the sprite familiar, and then getting like some of the other benefits from it, I think you need up to 5 levels. You need improved Pact familiar. Yeah, you need Pact of the Chain, improved Pact familiar, which is level 5. And then the rest, you could have your dinky little 1 damage sprite poison the arrows that they're using, and then suddenly they're dealing 1 damage plus 4d4 poison damage on top of potentially knocking them out from the sprite's poison and dealing 4d4 damage from your poison. I love this idea. I love this idea so much, but I'm not doing multi-classing. So, dang. Anyway, let's move on to the next one. So the Summoner Necromancer is by far the one that everybody thinks of. You're going to be summoning bodies onto the battlefield. You're going to be dropping skeletons and other undead creatures and getting people to be afraid, be very afraid. So let's start off with the stats. With an 8 in Strength, 14 Dexterity, 13 in Constitution, 15 Intelligence, 10 Wisdom, and 12 Charisma. These look very similar. For the variant human, we're going to put points into Constitution Intelligence. We are going to be picking up Nature and Gift of the Metallic Dragon. Now, Gift of the Metallic Dragon is a very, very interesting feat. This was a feat introduced in Fizban's Fizban's Treasury of Dragons, and there was a gift of the Chromatic Gem and Metallic Dragon. Now, keep in mind, the Priests of Rothma are servants of Trangul, who is a dragon. So this is one where I felt it was appropriate to kind of manipulate, tweak the flavor a little bit. Gift of the Metallic Dragon gives you Cure Wounds once per long rest, but you can also use it with any spell slots that you have. So it kind of adds it to your repertoire. Now, wizards don't have basically any healing at all. They have like life transfer or something like that, and that was something that I kind of wanted to do. They also have Vampiric Touch. They also have Vampiric Touch, but that is a self-infliction or self-healing, but also you're going to be in melee range, so don't do that. Anyway, the next part is Protective Wings. You get this kind of miniature shield. You add your proficiency bonus to the AC of either you or a creature within 5 feet of you that's getting attacked. And you can use this reaction a number of times equal to your proficiency bonus per long rest. So this is actually very nice. Now, the reason why I chose to do this one is because you are going to be putting things out onto the battlefield. You're going to be putting skeletons out onto the battlefield, and the logical thing to do is take out the summoner. So you're going to be getting hit from your opponent's backline. You might have somebody try to break through and just cut you down. So having protective wings, having cure wounds, having some measure of defense is going to be very, very handy for you. Now, one of my players who does have a ton of necromancers, he suggested Defensive Duelist, which is very similar. And you pick up a dagger, which is a finesse weapon. You can use your reaction to add your proficiency bonus to the AC for the attack, and that is unlimited number of times. But I also wanted Cure Wounds, so I figured I'm just going to go with this one. All right, for the background, we're going to be picking up Far Traveler. Far Traveler has been seen before. You are from out of town, and people have all eyes on you. So that makes sense. You're going to be walking around with a bunch of skeletons following you, so people are going to be staring. But Far Traveler gives us insight, perception, and the proficiency with Dragon Chess, a Dragon Chess set. It's just any tool, any gaming set, and I figured Dragon Chess is unusual. Might as well pick it up. For other skills, we're going to be picking up History and Medicine. No real reason for those. Again, History could just be a passion for it. And then Medicine, you have Gift of the Metallic Dragon, Cure Wounds, that kind of. For the gear, we're picking up a Quarterstaff, an Arcane Focus, and a Scholar's Pack. At level 3, we are getting Raise Skeleton. When you take the subclass at 3rd level, you can summon skeletons to assist you. It's 1 minute to perform a ritual that animates a small or medium humanoid skeleton or corpse, which uses the Skeletal Warrior stat block. You can have a number of skeletons under your control equal to your proficiency bonus, and then if you animate more than that, you choose a number and then destroy the rest. Share your initiative, take your turns immediately after yours, yada yada yada. So the Skeletal Warrior is basically vanilla. It's just they're just not good. They are there to soak shots and deal a little bit of damage. They do attack and deal damage based off of your intelligence. So it's pretty darn important for you to get a decent intelligence on your Necromancer. So do it. We also pick up Summon Adept, and this is as an action. You can give mental commands to any number of creatures you control within 60 feet of you. They do not have to be the same command. This is very similar and, in fact, gave rise to the Horde Leader ability and Horde Master ability that the Summoner Druid has. This allows the Necromancer to give the same or give commands to all of the different skeletons under his control, as well as the Golem. Keep in mind, the Golem was a bonus action to command. This shoves all of this into an action. The reason why it is an action is because this is not a caster class exactly. It is a caster class. You do have spells, but you're going to be using your warriors, your skeletal warriors, to attack, and that takes up your action rather than being a bonus action that you'd be basically doing for free. All right, for the ability score increase at level 4, we're going to be pumping our intelligence up, get that 18. Y'all know by now, I like having an 18 before doing anything else. And then at level 6, we are going to be picking up Summon Skeletal Mages. The Skeletal Mages are ranged rather than melee. They're a little bit squishier, a lot bit squishier, but they have a 120-foot ranged spell attack that deals a little bit more damage, and you can modify which ones you want, cold, fire, lightning, or poison. But this is where it allows you to switch from the tank to the DPS. So if you want to get somebody surrounded, you can send in your skeletal warriors. If you just want to deal a ton of damage, you can pick up your skeletal mages and run with that instead. Now, keep in mind, at this time, you only have 3. You only have 3 skeletons that you can control. So you have to be very, very picky about what you are running with. Okay. So I'm gonna put a pause here and tell a story. Way back when, the player that was playing all these necromancers, he had a summoner necromancer one day, and there was a burning dead skeleton that attacked him, like the necromancer directly, I think, but rolled a natural 1. Now, what I did back then was I would take, I wanted to see, like, how bad is it? On your natural 20s, I didn't do anything. On your natural 1s, I would roll to see how bad it was. And I rolled to see how bad this skeleton burning dead, how bad it was for this burning dead, and it rolled another 1. And I said, okay, listen, you're a necromancer. You're a summoner necromancer. If you can roll a 20, and before I even finished the statement, he grabs the die and sends it rolling. And that is how my player ended up controlling a burning dead. Because the magic inside of it was wavering or something or other, and my player like mentally reached out, grabbed hold of the animating magics, and twisted it to his will. And suddenly he now has this actual monster under his control. Oh my gosh. And the fun thing about this is that it lasted. He still has it. This thing is immortal. Like, I mean, yeah, it's an undead, but this thing is literally immortal. It has never been damaged. Or no, I think it's been damaged 1 time. It was hit with something else, but it is immune to fire, and the damage it was dealt was fire, so nothing happened for it. We call it his limited edition skeleton. So he's got 1 skeleton warrior, he's got 1 lightning mage, and then he's got his burning dead that he's keeping on the back line, firing arrows. I love it. Okay, let's get finished with this subclass. All right, at level 8, we are picking up another boost to our intelligence. Again, just giving us a little bit more damage, a little bit more accuracy, and you're going to need that a lot because you're going to be making a lot of attacks. For level 10, you're going to be picking up Revive. Now, Revive is interesting. In Diablo, what it does is you target a corpse, and that corpse comes up with a timed life under your control. It is literally that creature. The same stats and everything. You can't target like champion monsters and whatnot, but you can target most normal things. So picking up pit fiends or blunderboars or those kinds of things are really, really, really nice. Big, heavy hitters. In this case, you can touch a creature. As an action, you can touch a creature with CR, or the corpse of a creature, with CR less than your proficiency bonus, not less than or equal to, less than, so a maximum of CR 5, and animate it under your control, except it is undead. And then it lasts 1 hour or until you are incapacitated, and you can use it 3 times per long rest. So you can walk into a room, go, okay, touch, get the corpses of the 3 bandits that were there, and then have 3 additional skeletons or 3 additional bandits that you can use, but that is it that's it for the day. Or if you need a mount, for example, you can touch the skeleton of a horse and reanimate it, and now you can jump on it and ride around. It's very, very handy to use. You have a lot more damage. It probably should be like twice per long rest or like once per long rest, or you can only have 1 creature under your control. I haven't tested it fully yet, so balancing is out the window, but this is what I have right here. At 12th level, we're going to be bumping up our dex, give you that AC since you're not wearing armor. Level 14, you get Summon Mastery. Creatures you've summoned have resistance to all damage. In addition, they add an additional die to the damage rolls, or 1d6 if they don't use dice. So the idea behind this is that it mushes Skeleton Mastery and Summon Resist. and pushes them together. This functionally doubles their hit points, but it also means that it doesn't stack with the resistances that the creatures already have. Resistances and immunities those creatures already have. It's nice and simple, but it's also very, very, very handy. And then that last statement about if they don't use dice, remember that your clay golem deals 1 damage plus its strength, which is 2, or a +2. So adding an additional 1d6 is pretty good, rather than your your intelligence modifier or something like that. Flat damage tends to be very good. And then at 16th and 19th levels, we are bumping that dexterity up to 20, a little bit more AC. You don't need the Constitution, you don't need Warcaster, because you have proficiency in Constitution saving throws to maintain concentration on your spells. So if you get something like Summon Undead, or was it Summon Undead, Conjure Undead, Create Undead? I can't remember what it was. The ones that were introduced in Tasha's, the summon something or other, the summon spells from Tasha's, the concentration ones, you can use those instead, or in addition, and then end up with quite a few bodies on the battlefield. But because you have that proficiency in Constitution saving throws from your class, I'm not worried as much with your Constitution saving throws, but having a dexterity bumps your AC. If you really need to, you can pick up tough or something else so that you have a little bit more, or a little bit less squishiness. But that's what I went with instead. And that is the Summoner. This is pretty fun. The Summoner subclass is my favorite by far, and my favorite build to play in Diablo 2. Or, well, actually, any of the Diablos. The walking simulator builds are just so much fun. I love the Auridin. I love the Summoner Necromancer, Summoner Druid, Zoo Druid. It's so much fun to just walk around and not have to click buttons. And that is the Necromancer. So, what'd you think? Yeah, there wasn't a lot of interesting builds in this case. A lot of them were just kind of, You don't need the Resilient Constitution or Warcaster very much, because you have the proficiency with Constitution saving throws built into the class. So there wasn't really any need for that. Reduced the strain. You don't have a lot of defensive options, so picking up some kind of defensive ability would have been nice. Defensive Duelist, kind of Gift of the Metallic Dragon that we saw on the Summoner Druid, or Summoner Necromancer, the Strixhaven Initiate, or the Witherbloom class, or Witherbloom College would actually be pretty good. They are the necromancers, quote unquote necromancers of the of Strixhaven. I thought about picking up Lorehold Initiate for the archaeologist, because maybe they could find familiar, get a mount, run around, not have to worry about it. Oh shoot, no, the Lorehold mascot is medium, not large. Dang it. Anyway, but yeah, what did you think about all of this? Agree, disagree, have different ideas? Is there something that I missed? I would love to hear your feedback on all of this. So, I am going to end it here. You can contact me at XenosFan2, that is XENOZFAN2 on Blue Sky and Reddit. And you can contact the channel directly at Diablo TODND on Blue Sky and YouTube. Thank you much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Have a good whatever.